We now have a different, well, we don't know who will be on the other end of the negotiating table now, but certainly won't be Sinwar. So there's a different, it is a very different situation. Now, I don't want to predict too much what our efforts will look like over the course of the days, because we are just hours after what is a seismic event that changes the nature of this conflict. But we believe it is an opportunity to try and bring an end to this war, and we're determined to try and seize that opportunity.
Okay, but so you, but in.
So
are you going back to a place where you were 2 months ago? Because I just don't. The redoubling suggests that you're.
We are from a policy perspective and a strategic objectives perspective, what we want to achieve. We are in the same place, and we are going to continue to try to push forward the same proposals we have done with our mediators.
So, okay, so redoubling does not include changes.
So here's the difference. Over the past few weeks, there have been no negotiations for an end to the war because Sinwar has refused to negotiate. There's been no path to ending this war because Sinwar has refused to talk about releasing the hostages or coming to a ceasefire. We now see an opportunity with him being removed from the battlefield, being removed from the leadership of Hamas, and we want to seize that opportunity.
Thanks.
Shelley.
Couple of things. Can you confirm that Sinwar died yesterday?
He was, so I assume that he died yesterday. So I will leave the Israelis to speak to the exact results, but it was as the result of an operation that they conducted yesterday. I don't believe that he lay where he was brought down for hours and died later, but the Israelis can speak to that. They will be the ones that conduct any testing and can provide any results.
No confirmation, but that's your
the operation they carried out was yesterday. I assume that he died instantly or fairly shortly thereafter, but the Israelis can speak to that.
Does the leadership in Qatar, after the secretary spoke to them, do you suspect or do you know if they know who Hamas's chosen successor is going to be?
I don't think anyone can say with any certainty. Hamas has a process that they go through in these situations. We saw them go through that process after the death of Haniyeh. I could only expect that they will go through that process again. I don't think anyone can predict. People can always speculate, of course, about who the next leader of Hamas will be, but I don't think anyone can predict with any degree of certainty. But what we would hope, is that whoever the next leader of Hamas is, he will look at what has happened over the past year and look at the suffering that Hamas's actions have brought upon the Palestinian people who they aim to represent, whose cause they aim to advance, and will look and decide that they ought to pursue a different path forward. They ought to pursue a path that isn't one of death and destruction and chaos and harm to Israeli civilians and harm to Palestinian civilians, but one that the United States has presented, that Egypt has presented, that Qatar has presented, that other countries in the region and around the world have presented and endorsed. And so that's what we'll be pushing for.
Are you communicating that to, indirectly, to, I guess, the remaining leadership there? That are you communicating that is the United States' hope and what you're pushing for?
So I'm not going to speak about any communications that our mediators will have. We always let them speak to those. We are communicating with Qatar. We'll be communicating with other partners in the region. I think that our position is fairly well known. Now, of course, we don't know who the person at the other end of the phone is going to be. We don't know who will be making decisions for Hamas now. What we do know is that the person who had been the chief obstacle to moving forward with an end to the war is now fortuitously no longer with us.
Last question. So I know that you hope this is a big opportunity for ceasefire negotiations and a deal and return of the hostages, but a little more macro, what about for two